Shall we move into Aurora Valley?
And behind door number one is.
And so once again, if players did choose to go left or right, oh, that was the other thing. The fact that I don't even remember what it's called.
Morrow Cavern.
Right, Moro Cavern. The fact that it doesn't say monument on the sign, like, from my point of view, if the monument is early in the map, like, I prefer to get there
To
sooner
know.
and set up a base. Um,
Hmm.
and so, yeah, there is no way for me to know this was the monument, and so I just decided I was going to try to go left or right because I also wanted to watch other people play and didn't want to have spoilers, and so was trying to do things in the order that I thought most people might do them, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it was kind of intentional because I knew with this name that most people wouldn't knew that it was the monument.
Right,
I was hoping some players would, you know, go to Aurora Valley first because they have seen the screenshot.
right.
Or yeah, you probably saw it. And the name you should kind of refer to that. So you should be like, oh
It,
yeah, I know what this area is,
yeah, and it's
and then
it's ironic because
find the monument via this area because there's
right,
like a small
right, which is
pathway.
actually what happened to me.
Yeah, and
Although it
then
didn't occur to me. I mean, I saw the
that
name
was
Aurora
bad.
Valley and the little like thumbnail thing that's in the menu for when you select a world screen or whatever in your Minecraft client, like has the auroras on it.
Hmm.
But my brain didn't piece one together with the other until I saw this place, and I was like, "Oh, Aurora, Aurora, that's what that is."
Hmm.
And then also out here, you come out here, and I originally didn't come straight across the lily pads because there were monsters and different things or whatever, and so it took a moment before I actually get over to the sign that says, "Don't waste your time on the reeds; they're just for show." Because basically, if you break down sugarcane or whatever, like the reeds just disappear into thin air because there's like a command block that's deleting them from the world or whatever's going on.
Hmm.
And so I don't know. Yeah, talk about everything that goes into that overall decision in terms of aesthetics and mechanics. And
Um, I really like sugarcane in terms of aesthetics because they're just a really nice plant. You can just make as high as you want.
mm-hmm.
So basically like cacti, but you can fit it on way more. And I didn't want players to have access to all the books they ever want,
Right.
and that is why I just made them delete. But with the new 1.12 stuff, I can just make them
Yep, that's what I was
uncraftable.
just about to say. We'll be able to have custom recipes and have recipes be unlocked or locked up, and so you could just lock up the book recipe, or you could be using one of the current snapshots where there's a bug and there is no book recipe, and so you can't make them at all.
Oh yeah,
Um,
let's do that.
and
Oh, oh, nice.
yeah, another way to do things. And then yeah, then you don't have to explain it away this way. Although I guess there would be kind of like explanations at the beginning of a map if certain recipes were locked up. But once again, you could use also kind of the new advancements menu to kind of like show
Hmm.
recipes as they get unlocked and different things.
Hmm. I feel you should try to do that with as less reading as possible.
Yeah, that's. I
Like,
feel like throughout this map, you actually do a really good job of explaining things just through the natural way that players are likely to play the game as opposed to having to have signs and have much reading. In Vanilla Swirl, like I started out with like 12 pages of books trying to explain things about the map and had a few other books along the way explaining things. And so I feel like this map did a very good job of explaining things without having to explicitly call them out for the most
mhm.
part. A few examples where it didn't happen. One of them's coming up with gravel.
Yeah, that wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, and that was kind of an
Yeah.
oversight, basically.
Hmm.
So this area, it's a good area from the point of view of you come in here at the waterfall, and so you kind of like very quickly get kind of a grand reveal of it's this gigantic area, and you can look up at the aurora in the sky, and there's lots of pretty things. Just like in Myriad Caves, where I can't think of the name of the water area.
Drizzling
Yeah,
Cove.
the Drizzling Cove. It was a very vertical area, and that made it hard to traverse. I feel like this was also a very vertical area that made it hard to traverse. Um, you do some of the kind of like spirally bits in a few places in this area, and you also have waterfalls, and we've talked about how you can make the waterfalls a little bit more swimmable.
Yeah,
Um,
I forgot about that to make them like a little bit wider. here and there.
Yeah, kind of like farther away from
Yeah.
any blocks
So
so that you
you,
can swim
so
up.
you don't do the
Yeah.
slow swimming.
Um, and yeah, it's like one of those aesthetic kind of trade-offs. The area looks amazing, but especially early in the map when I didn't have good gear or whatever, like trying to get from point A to point B in this area, I found a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, I could see that. My intention was that there's basically like this under part, and there's this above part, and players don't really try to climb the vertical cliffs straight
Mm-hmm.
away. So it's basically funneling you down to go under this bridge, or yeah, whatever it is,
Right.
and then go to the small village over here, and then go to the wool that way.
I see. Yeah,
Because I like in these big open areas that you give the player like a linear path by doing this.
mm-hmm.
I noticed a lot of other open world games do this as well. Like Breath of the Wild, I noticed it does this a lot. But it really marks it out as well with like a path.
I see. And yeah, I don't remember in my case in particular how much I adhered to the steering versus just kind of went in my own directions. Um,
I think
but
you
I,
climbed a lot.
yeah, I think it tends to be like I often don't have a good memory, and so if I see something that's above or below that looks like it might be interesting, like I want to go check it out.
Yeah, points of interest.
If you can see where I am right now,
Hmm.
I don't remember anybody else noticing you're very good at hiding things like this. But the circle of glowstone that's on the wall over here, that's kind of like a bullseye target, and then there's one piece of glowstone possibly that was in the middle, and if you dig your way out, you get, I think it was an axe or something pretty nice.
Diamond Axe.
Um, yeah, and
I like secrets just in general, doing small
yes,
things like that.
that's one of the reasons I like your maps. I like them too. I hide secrets in my videos of your maps.
Oh, really? I didn't notice it.
um, yeah, but things like that, do you just like after you've made an area, you're like, oh, there's a wall here. Why don't I stick a secret in it? Or is there any more planning that goes into it? Or
I kind of think like, does this area feel rewarding so far? And yeah, it kind of already did, but I felt like, what if you have sometimes these like really cool items,
mm,
and yeah, you try to give those out in a rewarding way as well. Rewarding way as well.
got it.
English words, how do they work?
um, let's see. If I can remember the emerald locations in this, one was behind the waterfall down here that's near the entrance to the deep dark dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I recall, basically, so long as you were walking around here at night, at some point you would probably see the light shining through. And there's also it's a very common location in terms of being behind a waterfall. So both of those make it pretty findable.
Mm-hmm. Even though the difficulty was easier in this map, the
Mm-hmm.
whole just the emeralds in as well were really easy, like easier than in Myriad, I felt. like
Yes.
like
I,
most of them were like in obvious occasions already, or were pretty handholdy. Like you come to interesting spot A, and then you can see the emeralds from there.
yes. And yeah, I don't know that all of my videos have aired where, for example, I found the emeralds in the second to last area whose name escapes me right now. Or I guess it's actually the third to last area, but I went to the solar system first, the solar citadel. Deathshade Ruins.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Deathshade, I feel like, is a good example of you're standing in an interesting place and you can look back over the area and you'll see an emerald that you missed before. Um, yeah, if anyone had played Myriad Caves, these houses obviously look similar to houses in the area whose name escapes me, and so you want to check the attics, and
Um,
sure enough, there is an
mhm.
emerald in there. And then the one emerald that everybody had trouble finding was in the wall behind the vines over here.
Yeah. So
And
what I did with this one, or at least what I'm doing,
uh huh,
I'm removing this tree, and I'm putting this hallway like a few blocks down, so it's easier to notice from the ground up.
I
Because
see.
when you stand at this lower point, you
Mm-hmm.
really don't see that it's a lit up hallway.
Right. Or I think you also, yeah, like had like a cobblestone wall, kind of like possibly at the entrance or something. Maybe I'm making that up, and that wasn't really there.
It was like this.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it's really hard to see,
And I think
especially
you
with
added the
the
between
wall.
like the alpha and the beta, you added the zombie spawners in here, so at least it would be making noise too, possibly.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's people don't really take that much
Right.
um, custom whatever to sound cues.
Let me do weather clear 999999. So we'll quit doing that. Yeah, and I guess now is a good time that I can come clean. I know a lot of my viewers will be astonished and horrified, but I actually cheated to find 3 of the objectives in this map. Basically, if I spent more than an hour looking for an emerald after I'd otherwise finished the area, I basically went into spectator mode and started flying around to just see if I could peek it from somewhere. And if you clip into the walls, it's often very easy to spy an emerald box, and sometimes you can do it from very far away. And
Mhm.
then once you just have a sense, okay, somewhere over there there's an emerald, then I'd go back into survival mode and kind of like try to find it for real. But this is one that I wasn't able to find on my own. But then when I clipped through the walls, I immediately saw it somewhere. And so I just came back down here to find it.
Yeah, it's kind of a horrible placement in some ways. I was hoping people would queue in as well because Emerald 3 is down there and Emerald
Yep.
5 is up here. That
Right.
would be somewhere in between, and
Yep.
it's almost perfectly in line
It is actually almost
with it.
exactly halfway in between, kind of on all 3 axes. So that is kind of a good implicit hint. But speaking of hints, have you ever thought of giving uh, kind of like a hint book or a way to like buy a hint for the location of an emerald, or in advancements, like have a tooltip that gives a hint or different things like that? Like
I have been thinking about it, but
it's kind of an extra
yeah,
layer of effort and might be hard to do well.
yeah. I feel it's not really worth it because it's basically a bonus goal. It's not really mandatory.
Right.
So I feel the player, yeah,
But yeah,
and it basically gives players something to talk about as well.
that's true. It has kind of the outside of the gameplay aspect of creating more things to talk about on forums and different things, and create more community around the map in terms of
Mhm.
finding all the emeralds. But yeah, basically, after I spent a ton of time in Myriad looking for emeralds and it wasn't always fun, I decided I was just going to cap how much time I looked for any individual emerald. And if it was no longer becoming fun, then I would fly through the walls and try to just get a peek of it's somewhere near this corner, and then go back into survival and find it. So that's what I actually did, and that was one of the emeralds that I did it on.
Mhm.
And apologies to any of my viewers who are horrified at that, and that it's not the truth of what you actually saw in the video.
I just insert, bro.
Ah. This was a surprisingly, or for me anyway, a surprisingly effective trap. Like, there was enough stuff happening as you came into this area that I didn't notice the big flat sand area here.
Hmm. It was kind of meant to be like haha, I just got you again. Because you expect this to be like a lava pit or something.
Oh,
So when
right.
you
And instead,
so
it's
when
creepers.
yeah, so when you it's basically not a trap, it's basically just like a door for the enemy and you're just opening it.
Right, right.
So
Even if you
instead
think you've
of
outsmarted
keeping
render and you
yeah, and then I
place a torch
outsmart
or
you.
whatever, then all of a sudden you get surprised.
Mhm.
So that was cool. That's a nice little variation of a common trap.
Yeah, with these houses, I feel this is more like assets than actual gameplay pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Like it took me a long time to make these houses, so I just want to use them anyway.
Yep.
But I feel that with houses like these, like you can like houses making in exterior and interiors of like buildings or structures are is like the most time taking things like in
Right.
this. So I feel just getting these assets and using those instead would work better than just creating houses every time. Like
And
if you don't use them 24/7, it should work out. Like every
Yeah,
now and then.
yeah. Basically, yeah. This was the only thing that I kind of like noticed and thought was kind of lifted from another map. Although one thing I also wanted to ask about is you got like all these trees of different sizes or whatever, and so I presume you just have like a bank of trees, and then there's a few other areas where you also have big trees, and so do you just have basically a world that has like a big group of trees and you cut and paste ones that you need, or did you custom
Um,
design for this map, or
I most of times make like 4 or more schematics of like a tree,
mm,
and then copy paste those around and rotate them and mirror them so they won't look the same.
right,
And basically do it that way, because if you make more, people are not going to notice it anyway. So it's
right,
basically more wasted time.
right. And if you make too
So you,
few, then it looks like kind of cut and paste throughout.
hmm like,
And yeah, the fact that the spruce trees here, like they are circular symmetric or whatever, and so there aren't really ways to kind of rotate them around, and so they're mostly different sizes or kind of like the shape of the bushiness of the top.
mhm.
But in other
Yeah,
areas, there's a whole lot more that you can do with the rotation and stuff.
yeah, different sizes with those schematics is also like a really good idea, because that just makes them more different anyway.
In this map, let's see, yeah, you give out the potatoes here as kind of like an easier version of a bread food source for some folks relatively
Yeah,
early on.
it's the same as wheat anyway or bread. So potatoes are just less grindy.
Right, yeah,
So,
so long as you have a uh, furnace fuel supply, then
hmm
you're ready to go. Yeah, I don't like to bother cooking things in a furnace, and so I usually prefer the bread.
hmm yeah, I'm on the same page, but I noticed a lot of
Yeah,
people
a lot of
just.
people feel the other way.
Mhm.
Let's see. Up here, there was at the top of the waterfall another fun hidden secret inside this lake where there was kind of an X marks the spot thing. It reminded me a bit of
Mm,
um, in
Goliath.
Goliath, where you had the treasure maps.
I wanted those to be in here, but the areas are so small that you
Yeah,
instantly know, like, oh yeah, it's over there.
yeah,
So yeah, I didn't go for that. I do really want to bring those back.
yeah. I did like the treasure maps that you had in Goliath, but I like the fact that, yeah, so long as you're kind of like keeping your eyes open. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's lots of places where if you keep your eyes open, you'll see things like that circle in the wall or the X in the bottom of the lake here that will lead to good stuff. And I don't remember. I remember I went up on top after I came through the monument just to kind of like circle from looking down up top and making sure there weren't like chests hidden inside the Aurora or an emerald hidden inside the Aurora when I was still looking for the emerald. I don't remember what was in this chest. Enchanted books. I see. That's pretty good for this early in the map.
Mm-hmm. Like this area is kind of like the. Have you ever played Tony Hawk, like Pro
No,
Skater?
I'm
There
aware of
were
it.
in some games of those, you had certain maps where you could go out of bounds, but you could find some stuff where you could walk. Because most of the times you would be like teleported back and then like out of bounds sign would appear.
I see.
But I feel it's kind of rewarding when you get out of bounds and you actually found like a little secret or something.
Got it.
So that's kind of what this is. Because I don't expect players to come up here, but if they do, they at least find something.
Yep.
And to have that like here and there every now and then is
Mm-hmm.
really nice.
Yeah, and it was basically for me. I think it was another out of bounds reward. I don't remember for sure, but it might have been when I was circling around this area is when I spotted the circle on the wall when I was looking back over this way. So
Hmm
that's something you can spot from a distance. The wool, I guess it was a little hard to find. There was the red mushroom, which was kind of out of place, and red is a very bright color that kind of like catches your eye, and it also had apparently some enchanted armor on the top. And then I
hmm
guess it also was this tallest tree. It was like in the base of it, basically, that was
And
the wool box.
if you follow the path from the small village,
Mm-hmm.
you would actually walk towards here anyway. And
I
then there's like
see.
there's a line of torches on the back wall, on the back of that big tree with wool.
Right.
And that's basically the lighting cue to say
Right.
like, hey, there's something over here.
Yeah, I think I probably
It's
walked at this path at some point, but actually, I'm not sure I ever walked on the path. There's no torches on this portion of the path. I may have never actually walked the path, and so I may have gotten distracted when I found the lake and the circle and the X, and then went back down the waterfall and was coming different ways, and so I just never happened to stumble across that path.
Mhm.
But yeah, pretty straightforward. Then you could see the wool box, and it was a dark area, and there were monster spawners, and that was good enough to guard it.
Mhm.
Is there anything else in this area before we move on to Deep Dark Dungeon?
Nope, not really.
Okay. Oh, there's one other thing, which is the music
Oh,
disc, which was in the base of one of the columns down here.
oh yeah.
Where
The
was it
gravel.
exactly?
It's in the pillar with under the axe.
All right, let me head over that way. Um,
Oh yeah, I have another thing to talk about as well.
okay.
With the
I can't
I
find
always
the. Are
oh
you there? Can I teleport to you?
yeah, sure. So in yeah, in Myriad I had these chests with like 2 stacks or 3 stacks of coal
Right.
around. And I tried to do that less and do that more via environmental things. Like you actually mine it again, but then
Right.
give out coal blocks instead, which is what I really liked about Vanilla Swirl.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can give it out in a chest, but it kind of feels like that's a lazy way around. It doesn't involve the player be managing or just
Right.
um, something to train. Words. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely there's more active achievement in terms of mining the coal blocks, and you still feel like you're getting a bonus
Mm. Yeah,
without just
just
picking it up directly out of the chest.
yeah, like you should try to avoid menus with game design as much as possible. So I'm trying to do that here as well by making the player interact with the terrain instead of a
Instead of
chest.
opening a chest that brings up a UI, I see.
Hmm.
So in any case, we were coming over here because the music disc was in here, and so it was surrounded with some gravel on the side to help you find it, and that was one of the oversights. You didn't intend to have the gravel this early on,
Hmm.
but it ended up being a good hiding place for the disc. And this one was particularly useful because it had fortune on it, and so you could also use it like on your potato farm, for example.
Yeah.
And I guess you're looking to see if you'd use cracked stone bricks or something like that. It could have, yeah, also given it away without having to use the gravel.
Yeah, clay works for this as well a bit. Like a few bits of clay. Oh, that's
It could. Since there's
yeah.
no other clay anywhere in the walls, it might be too out of place. I'm not sure. From the outside,
There was like a little lighting hole as well. I think that works as well, like a little lighting queue.
I see. Yeah, and when we come to Chill Blast Mines, I want to ask you about something like that too. Okay, so yeah, then apart from that, I think we can head over to the Deep Dark Dungeon.
Hmm.
And yeah, you can kind of fight your way to the entrance. Since it was a side path, of course, it has like a uh, little shortcut that goes back to kind of the beginning of the area, and you did that in a few places, and that worked out well. And this was um, kind of a good kind of introduction to that idea
Hmm.
um, for unlocking that. Um, and yeah, again with a little teleporter hallway, but again it helped me. It felt like it was going in the right direction, and I never got lost as a result of it. So that all worked out well. And I guess I'll just go into spectator mode in this one too, because I don't remember. This dungeon's a little bigger.
Yeah,
There's an
this is base.
sorry, there's an emerald hidden in the wall over here, and once again it was behind gravel, so that was another oversight.
Hmm. Yeah, this is circle brick with some cobble as well. No, 'cause cobble stands out in the wall. I don't
Yep,
have some of these marking it.
got it.
But this smaller dungeon is just to say just to have two wolves in the same area because it's a pretty big area.
Yes.
and have it and name like the separate thing, so there are two rules in this
Right.
area. Because I want to have this like a smaller map,
Right.
so like
So
a
in
so two
comparison,
rule
if
in
if
one
if,
area.
if this had been Myriad Caves, it might have been that Aurora Valley was this whole area, and then there would just be kind of like some stained glass in the front entrance of this dungeon, and this would be the dungeon of Aurora Valley kind of thing.
Um, I would have probably left it above there because I kind of like the idea of having it a bit in the wild, in the open
I
more,
see.
and have like a because that area is like really dense and really overgrown, so it should feel more like a challenge because it's there's a lot of darkness there, and in like the really early versions, it was a really hard place because of all these spawns.
I see.
Because there are a lot of honeypots right now behind it, but yeah.
I am actually realizing that it looks like there's a chest that I never looked inside in this dungeon. If you just go into spectator mode and fly through the wall, there's a chest in one room
Wait,
that
did
I don't really have torches lighting up.
you? You looked at it.
Did I
You
look at it?
probably looked. Oh, you have to. There's a torch over here, so you probably were like, "Oh yeah, there's a chest over there."
Well,
Oh, it
yeah.
looks
I mean,
dark.
yeah, yeah. I probably was lighting things up and still fighting monsters, and then forgot all about it basically. So I don't remember if I actually saw that. It probably would have been decent armor for this early in the. Well, it's the blast protection, projectile fire, feather falling.
That's. I mean, you mainly had leather, so yeah, it is
Yeah, it
pretty good
probably would have been
armor.
decent. You did have the iron, like we didn't actually go into back in Aurora Valley
Spiders, yeah, the mines.
behind the houses. There was a short little iron area with spiders and different things.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and the wool in here. Oh, right, this had the ogre. So this was the first of the guys that you're supposed to farm that no one farmed ever.
Well, if you wanted to farm,
Yeah.
I
Uh,
mean, with the coal golems and iron golems, it's nice to have like infinite
yeah.
resource.
Yeah.
So at least I can say to the player, "Hey, you doing guffed it now. That's you messed up now." But yeah,
I guess
like
this is
if they actually run out of stuff.
right. I guess this is a good opportunity to talk about custom mobs. You don't use very many of them. You used a few more in this map, um, but it still was mostly vanilla mobs with just a few of these extra guys added in, which is a style that I like. Um, but it's also the case that you continue to modify the vanilla mobs, and so I guess the skeletons have less health. The baby zombies and baby spiders have slowness or something, or less movement speed.
Yes, the zombies have, I think, slowness one, or maybe even two. But I think, yeah, they have, yeah, I think two. And the cave spiders have slowness one just because of their hitboxes. Because
Right.
if you like really fast moving things, already have like a really janky hitbox. Like
Yep.
Enderman as well. If you try to hit them before they can hit you, yeah, good luck.
Right.
Is all I'm saying to you.
Yeah,
But
interpolation at only 20 frames a second or something, whatever the game is running at, is yeah, really bad on small hitboxes that are moving quickly.
mm,
Yeah, I feel like the baby zombies is maybe overdone. It's good for an easy map, but if you're making a harder one, like I might do just slowness one instead of slowness two if you still want to do that.
I'm
But
upping it. I'm upping it.
I say, but yeah, for the rest of the mobs, I think it's perfectly reasonable. And then you talked about having fewer skeletons spawning naturally, which I didn't really notice throughout the map, but I did feel like something was off.
Hmm.
And for the spider jockeys, did you say explicitly like what you did for the spider jockeys?
I up those as well because it basically targets all natural skeletons.
Okay,
So it also targets skeletons on top of spiders. So basically, all spider jockeys would have been eliminated. So I needed to add those in as well.
I see. And how did you up them? Like, did
Um,
you replace a skeleton with a spider jockey, or did you?
yeah,
Okay, I guess when we talk
like
about command blocks, we can talk about it more. But
mhm. Just all skeletons get traced over, and like so many out of so many get replaced by X mob X.
right now, for these custom mobs, they had custom drops. But the custom drops were, it felt like kind of unreliable or whatever, and so you might have to kill 5 of these guys before you realize they dropped a particularly interesting thing. For this guy, I guess, mostly dropped his club, which was like some shovel with sharpness or something. I don't remember.
Sharpness and knockback, yeah.
Um,
I mean, it is a pretty decent weapon if you have like nothing, if you're starved on stuff.
uh
But yeah, not this map.
huh.
But
In general, when you think about loot tables, like um, for like common drops and rare drops, do you have any, I don't know, methodology for how you do it, or you just like try out some things and see if they seem like they kind of feel good, or
I try to go for things that feel like the player could want, but not. And it also kind of depends on what mob it is. If I don't use it that much, like this ogre,
right?
I kind of make the loot not too important. But if the player wants all that clay, then they can have it. And it's also if the stuff feels like the guy should have it. Like I mean, the guy is completely blue,
Mm-hmm.
so I felt he was kind of made of clay or something.
I see.
But yeah. Oh yeah, no, I really like no knockback enemies. They're like really tanky to
Yeah,
walk
they, and
towards.
that was one. It's very. I think most everyone I saw kind of like immediately recognized. Oh, this guy takes no knockback. And so it was kind of like a thing that you like stand back and start kind of planning for or whatever when fighting this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I think
that's also a thing with these custom mobs is that I don't want to have like a zombie that's just a zombie with armor, just and with multiple levels of those, like just glorified enemies every time. But
mm,
actually have enemies that have different gameplay
right,
in general tied to them as well.
right. And so yeah, something like that with like no knockback, and then just if one in every 20 zombies out in the wild like spawned with this guy's head or something and like had no knockback, so that I like kind of like knowing ahead of time, like rather than just like every random zombie being somehow slightly different. Like it's nice if there's a
Hmm.
visual cue, but yeah,
Yeah, if you have custom mobs, that's especially hard with creepers and stuff and spiders because it's hard to show like, oh hey, this guy is different.
right, yeah, exactly. The skeletons and zombies, you can give them heads, you can give them different colored armor, you can give them whatever's. Creepers and spiders, I guess you could give them name tags, but unless the player is right up looking directly at them with their crosshairs, like they won't see the name necessarily. And
And then the putting it on always available, I think, is a bit janky because you can see literally all the mobs everywhere then.
right, yeah, you don't want the name tag always visible.
But
Um,
you can
and
use particles, I have found.
right, particles are good. Um, and it seemed to me there was something else. Oh yeah, I remember with Vanilla Swirl, I was also experimenting with having the mobs actually show you what they're going to drop. So if like the zombie's going to drop an apple, like he could have a apple on his head, and it looks kind of like it's floating above his head, kind of like where a banner would be. And if
Oh,
you have like an apple like riding on top of a spider, like you can kind of like see the item floating there, and so if you kill that spider, you're gonna get an apple kind of thing. But
hmm.
it was hard to get stuff like that really worked in any kind of consistent way, just due to various Minecraft limitations.
Yeah. I wish you could do more with that kind of stuff.
Hopefully, it seems like every version there's a little bit more. So,
Slowly but surely.
yep. And so if you exit this area and you come across the other side, there's this little, I don't know if you call it a waterfall or just kind of like passage kind of area that leads to potentially the reveal of the monument if you came this way first.